My roommate said, "I'm not paying rent anymore. What are you gonna do about it?" I said, "Nothing." Then I introduced him to his replacement. My roommate Jake stopped paying rent 3 months ago. Just announced it over breakfast like he was discussing the weather. "I've decided I'm not paying rent anymore," he said, stirring his cereal. "This place is overpriced anyway, and you make way more money than me. I'm a software developer working remotely. Jake works part-time at GameStop and spends most days playing Call of Duty in his underwear. The lease is in both our names," I said calmly. He laughed. "So? What are you gonna do? Kick me out? You need my half to afford this place." That's where Jake made his first mistake. He assumed I needed him. See, I'd been planning to move in with my girlfriend Sarah for months. The only reason I hadn't already was our lease didn't end until December. But Jake's little declaration changed everything. "You're right," I said. "I'm not gonna do anything about it." Jake looked surprised. He'd expected a fight, threats, maybe begging. Instead, I just shrugged and went back to my laptop. For the next 2 weeks, Jake lived like a king, ordered DoorDash daily, bought a new gaming chair, even threw a party while I was visiting Sarah. He kept making comments about how I was finally being reasonable, and how this arrangement worked better for everyone. What Jake didn't know was that I'd been busy, very busy. I called our landlord, Mr. Chen, and explained the situation. Turns out Jake was already on thin ice for noise complaints from neighbors. Mr. Chen was more than happy to work with me on a solution. I also posted the room for rent on Craigslist, found Marcus, a grad student who actually had references and a security deposit ready. Last Tuesday, Jake was mid-game when someone knocked on our door. He ignored it, as usual, so I answered. "Hey, you must be Jake," said Marcus, extending his hand. "I'm your new roommate." Jake paused his game and walked over, confused. "New roommate? What's this guy talking about?" I pulled out some papers. "Jake, meet Marcus. He's taking over your half of the lease." Jake's face went red. "That's not how leases work, idiot. You can't just replace me." "Actually," I said, handing him the documents, "when you stopped paying rent, you violated the lease agreement. Mr. Chen was happy to transfer your portion to someone who actually pays." Marcus started moving his boxes in while Jake stood there reading the legal paperwork. "This is illegal," Jake sputtered. "I have rights." "You absolutely have rights," I agreed. "You have the right to find somewhere else to live by Friday." Jake called his dad, who apparently told him the same thing the lawyer consultation did. "When you stop paying rent, you lose your right to stay." The best part was watching Jake realize he'd have to move back in with his parents at 26 because he'd blown his savings on DoorDash and gaming equipment instead of rent. "Where am I supposed to go?" he asked, suddenly not so confident. "Probably should have thought about that before you decided rent was optional," I said. Friday morning, Jake loaded his gaming setup into his dad's truck while Marcus organized his textbooks on the shelf. The transition was seamless. As Jake carried out his last box, he turned back. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is," I said, closing the door. Marcus turned out to be the perfect roommate. Quiet, clean, and pays his half on the first of every month like clockwork. Plus, he actually has a job that requires him to leave the apartment occasionally. Jake's been posting on Facebook about fake friends and backstabbers, but last I heard he was asking his GameStop manager for more hours because his parents are charging him rent too. Sometimes people need to learn that consequences exist, even when you think you've found a loophole. Jake learned that lesson for the cost of one security deposit and his dignity.